into RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
Hello and welcome all you Rowdies fans. Welcome to RBLR Sports, specifically the Rowdies section here within the podcast. My name is Leo Santos, and as you know, I am always joined by amazing and terrific co-host James. James, my man, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well. You know, there was a game this past weekend. We won that game, and maybe there was something else that happened, but I can't. Leo, did anything else happen this past weekend related to that game?
If you're talking about the playoffs, that's something else that happened. We did clinch the playoffs, but I think I know where you're heading with this, James. For those of you who don't know, James and I do have a prediction battle going on, and I have been slacking the past 2 weeks. But you know who hasn't been slacking the past 2 weeks? James, you can take it over.
Yeah, well, we did clinch the playoffs, and that is very important. But in something that is clearly far more important, our personal betting game, I have predicted a correct 2-1 scoreline now 2 weeks in a row. And that is not by luck. That is obviously down to the skill of a Nostradamus-like figure like myself. And I just want to point that out for everybody. But hey, it'll probably pick up at some point.
Let's hope it picks up faster than expected, because I started out so well, then slowly just been falling off the cliff. But it's all good. As long as the Rowdies win, I'm happy. If I lose a prediction, but the Rowdies clinch the playoffs, you know what? I'll take that any day. But yeah, before we get into the game, please, listeners, the best way to support this podcast, which is for free, you don't have to pay anything, we have no Patreons or anything like that, is to simply just hit that subscribe button wherever you listen to us. That could be Spotify, Apple Music, Google Podcasts, wherever you listen to us. Just hit that subscribe button. And of course, follow us on social media. If you're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, although I'm pretty sure most people know, we are recording this on Monday, and earlier in the day, Facebook and Instagram were down, but I believe they're back up. So you can follow us there at RBLR Sports. Simple things you can do to help us out here in this podcast. And also check out the t-shirt that we have collaborated with Cathedral Clothing. There's a link to it in the description, again, wherever you listen to your podcast. And all proceeds go to the Play for More campaign by Forrest Lasso. His campaign donates to charities within the local area and other places that Forrest Lasso has played in. It's a really good cause. The shirts look really nice. I'm pretty sure James and I are going to get those t-shirts whenever we can. Our producer Yuri already has one on the way. So, congrats to Yuri. Hats off to you if you're listening. But yeah, without further ado, let's get into it, James. The Rowdies did win on Saturday to Charleston. They came back from behind after being down by 1 goal very early in the game. But, when you're down 1-0 away, it's a very tough challenge. But it didn't seem tough for the Rowdies as they scored 2 goals in the space of, what was it, James, 2 to 5 minutes?
Yeah, it was pretty close. Like you said, the timing that we were able to get back into the game and then obviously take over and take the lead. All of that is very good for us as Rowdies fans, because when you do go a goal down, especially with the way that some of this season has gone, that was a problem that we were having, and we were at that point in the past, over those rough months during the very heat of the summer. We were, giving up those early goals, and then we weren't necessarily actually getting back into the game, or at least not very quickly. This one, not only did we get back into the game pretty quickly, but then, like I said, we took the lead. So that's all very promising. But let us start off really quickly with the lineup. It is the same lineup that we have been seeing pretty much across the board recently. Evan Loro obviously was in net. Aaron Guillen, Forrest Lasso, Jordan Scarlett at the back. Our dynamic trio, who are never there, who are never missing, and always there to make sure that they are going to hold it down at the back. Leo Fernandez was the left wing back, Sebastian Dalgard the right wing back. Lewis Hilton held his position, and Lawrence Wyke held his position that they have been doing in the recent past. Jan Ekra started up top alongside Steven Dos Santos, Big Duba, and Sebastian Guenzati. And Jan Ekra did his usual role where he was applying pressure to the opposing team's defense and then dropping back into the midfield when we did not have the ball and they pushed it forward. So, that's how it went with the lineup. And as you said, Leo, pretty interesting start. What did you think of, the way that the Rowdies looked early on?
I thought Honestly, I didn't think the Rowdy were the best side in the opening 10, 15 minutes. I was really impressed with the way Charlotte approached this game, which when you're the home side, you do sometimes prefer to be that side that dominates, to impress your home fans. You don't want to be the side that's absolutely getting hammered in possession, hammered in shots, because when you're in a home crowd, you don't want to be the second best side on there. So credit to Charleston for the way they came out. I thought the Rowdies were a little bit uncomfortable, trying to play their way out, trying to create some kind of rhythm, and then we've seen early on, a call which I thought was a bad call from the referee, a call that didn't go the Rowdies' way, ended in Charlotte's favor. For those of you who watched the game, a penalty was called, I believe, within the first 10 minutes. A ball is kicked in the box, and Jordan Scarlett, who has been phenomenal for a majority of the season, the ball hits I believe it deflects off his foot, and then it hits his hand, but the referee deems that to be a handball. In my personal opinion, I would have not given that. I think, James, you and I have seen in Europe situations where handballs like that aren't given because it hits a different body part first and hits the hand, so it's accidental, it's unintentional. The player did not mean to do that, but in this case, the referee did not see it that way, or he didn't agree the same way other players or head coach Neil Collins viewed it. So he gave the penalty, and Rowdies found themselves in some trouble very, very early on in the game.
Yeah, I have to agree with you that I thought the penalty call was pretty harsh, but the way penalties are called now, it is something that can happen. The referees have to take into account the position of your hand in relation to your body. So, is your hand in an unnatural position? And usually, what that means is it in a place where it's going to necessarily get in the way of the ball? Whatever is coming at you, if it's a pass, if it's a shot, if it's a cross, if your hand is kind of in a place where it's going to get in the way, okay, the referee can look at that one way. But here, as you noted, it wasn't straight into Jordan Scarlett's hand. It took a deflection off his leg and went into his hand, and his hand was up so high because he was jumping, which is why he was able to get his leg in front of the ball in the first place. I personally think it was kind of crazy, and okay, if you give the penalty, I guess that's one thing. But not only that, he gave Jordan Scarlett a yellow card for the incident, and I think that was absolutely ridiculous. It wasn't down to any protest as far as I could tell. I believe that he went to his pocket pretty quickly after he blew the whistle to announce that he had given a penalty, and overall, just incredibly harsh call. And the Rowdies did have a light penalty call. Or a light penalty shout, I should say, a couple minutes later, and the referee didn't even, give that one a second thought. And it was kind of like, I don't know about this. I think even the commentators mentioned that, if the referee's going to give one, he should give both. Ultimately, obviously, that is not what happened. But the Rowdies still did get a penalty a little bit later because the game was starting to get a little feisty. And, that didn't necessarily lead straight to the penalty, but it was the case that I think that the Rowdies were very annoyed from that call, the way that it went, and then ultimately they were able to push themselves back into the game despite the fact that these two teams were going at it so hard.
Oh, yeah, one thing I just want to add on to what you said about the game getting feisty. We seen that challenge that was put on Lewis Hilton where he was just standing on the sideline and he comes in and someone literally just shoulders him down to the ground. Lewis might have made the most of it, but definitely, yeah, I don't see how the referee doesn't even have a word with the other player or at least calms things down. He just completely ignores Lewis's protest, and the game goes on. But like I said, in that penalty shot of the handball in the box, I believe it was from a corner kick. If the referee is going to call that kind of handball on Jordan Scarlett, and like you said, he should be doing the same thing if it happens, towards the Rowdies. If someone in that box when Charlotte handles the ball, which I think that was more handling than what happened with Jordan Scarlett. You got to call it even on both sides. And you look at the penalty that was called for, you look at the penalty that was called for Steven Dos Santos. And, although that was a penalty, it was very little contact, but, contact is contact in the box. But I believe that the handling was more of a penalty than the one he called for Dos Santos. But yeah, I think that was, the referee kind of had on his mind to make, one of those things we call in the sports a makeup call. So usually what that means is, if I call a bad foul, let me make up for it by calling a not so serious foul for the other team. that was punished earlier. So, early on, you could see, the game may have not been leaning towards the Rowdies' way, but that didn't seem to affect them as much because, after they scored that penalty, things just were heading towards the Rowdies' way.
Yeah, ultimately, as you said, things started turning our way, and that was lucky enough because of the way that the game started. But Lawrence White did, had the same work rate that he always does, and he was able to grab the ball here and there and push it forward. He does like going on those, pretty short little runs when he sees some space open. That's something that we've noted about his game in the past, and his ability in the midfield. So he did that ultimately when the ball broke for him. And in the first goal, he played it out to Seba, who had stepped out a little wide of the box. Seba played it right back to him, and Lawrence White was there to finish it. It was his first goal of the season. He has been trying for ages at this point to actually get one. He had hit the post, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 times in the last month or so. And I think, Leo, there's nothing else that can be said except the kid deserves this. He is absolutely working, game in, game out specifically to try and get a goal, it looks like. And he's finally gotten his reward.
Yeah, and we've seen many times before where there's been games where he gets in good positions, but he's either barely off target or it hits the post, and we just feel so bad because he gets himself in these really good positions. He works his tail off the entire game. You just see how much energy he provides running up and down the field, and then he finally got his goal, like you said, and he just showed what it meant to him. And I'm pretty sure Twitter was going crazy as well when I got the alert that he scored. And I looked on, the first thing I did was look on Twitter, and I just see everywhere on my feed #White Strike, and I just look at the the reaction from when he scored, and it just meant a lot to him to get that goal.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, as we said, that's something that he's been trying for this long, to get that after, having had so many chances come as close as hitting the post. It's got to be one of the best feelings out there. And I think that all of his play obviously deserves this, but not only that, I think that this will give him more confidence in future to keep trying and keep taking those shots. And when you get confidence, that's when you're scoring more. That's when you're producing whatever it is. If you're a defender and you're trying to make a lot of one-on-one tackles, you get a really good one, and that boosts your confidence for the next one. If you're a defender who likes to get up for big headers, you get over, let's say, Steven Dos Santos, a giant guy on the field. That's going to give you confidence to try and keep beating him. Here, Lawrence White is going to boost himself for the next couple of games, and I think that we will hopefully reap those benefits. But before we do that, reap any more benefits, we have another goal to talk about, and this came from the penalty shout for the Rowdies that ultimately was given.
Yeah, that penalty shot right there. As you know, I believe was that ball from. It was Jan Ekra, wasn't it? That ball to Sebastian Dalgaard on the right wing?
Yes, it was from
Jan
Ekra that played it out to Sebastian Dalgaard, as you said. He crossed it in, and Steven Dos Santos was there. This isn't the first time we've seen it this season, but Steven Dos Santos then gets bundled over while he's in the box and trying to get onto the ball. And the referee couldn't hide that one. He knew immediately, that was a penalty. There was no way that he couldn't give it, luckily. And Sebastian Guenzati steps up for it.
Yeah, that I just want to point out real quick that ball from Jan Ekra to find Sebastian Dalgaard, because I'm pretty sure people who watch the game, that's not an easy ball to make. I think Jan Ekra is just showcasing his skills, his vision, his the way he just perfects that role as a center attacking mid, and also that sometimes as we've seen him in the past games operate as a right winger too. But in this scenario, he was mainly more in the center of the field, and he had to get that ball through, I think, 2 or 3 bodies of Charleston players in front of him to get that ball to Sebastian Dalgaard. Not only to get the ball to him, but to also put it in the area where Dalgaard could take it up and have enough space to put in a good cross. And I mean, we both know that Dos Santos is the one that gets fouled to create that penalty, but I believe that opportunity does not happen without the football intelligence from Jan Ekra. And as we said, James, as you said, Sebastian Guenzati steps up and takes the penalty. And, we do know he's been missing some penalties lately. He hasn't been on the best penalty streak, but, he put that matter to bed because he puts this goal away, adds more tallies, not only to the season, but to overtake as to become the Rowdies' top goal scorer ever in history, for the club. So, credit to Gonzalez again. Finally he's back on score sheet from penalties. I hope it just continues. We need him, especially around this time when playoffs is coming really, really close. We need him to firing on all cylinders, whether it's, it's happening in the 6-yard box, whether it's a header, from anywhere in the box, and also if it's from the penalty mark, because we just need him to firing on all cylinders, and he seems to be doing exactly that. He seems like a player who's in really great form, a player who loves playing for this club, who loves being the captain, who loves leading this team on the attacking front. And credit to Gonzalez, like I said, to having the composure, to not even thinking about, I missed the last 2 penalties. I don't care. This is a new penalty. I'm going to take this one. And he did, and he scored, and credit to him. But like I said, that does not happen without that football intelligence from Jan Ekra.
No, I definitely agree. I have been trying to get the Jan Ekra train going, I think, recently. And one of my notes for the first portion of this game, especially leading up to this goal, was that Jan Ekra is amazing. I've got amazing in all caps because I thought that he was doing, just really good stuff out there. And yeah, that football intelligence is where it's something that I've also said in prior podcasts, that I just hope there are some kids who are watching Jan Ekra as kind of the role model of how you need to play, especially in the game that soccer has become now, because pressing is such an important part of the game, and you try to win the ball in good positions against teams that are right outside their penalty box or what have you. And Jan Ekra has done that extremely well, even if it doesn't necessarily show up in the stats. He has led to many of the turnovers that ultimately show up on other player stats when they've got this interception or this, this tackle succeeded, whatever it is. A lot of those come because Jan Ekra has put somebody under pressure where they are laying off a bad ball, or they're giving somebody a pass that's very hard to control and bring down. But yeah, it's definitely down to that football intelligence, as you said, and then really, really solid play from Sebastian Guenzati too, to step up and show his confidence while he's out there. I think that last week it was, or maybe the week before, that we got a Twitter question. Will Sebastian Guenzati beat the Rowdies' record this season? And again, we said it at the time. He's only on form to do that, and I think that he's, his form has stayed up. So I don't see any reason why he can't when he keeps going on like this.
Exactly, and as you've been saying, James, and what I've been saying is that as long as he keeps on scoring, and he's been proven that he has been keeping on scoring, he's bound to either tie the record or break it this season. I wouldn't be surprised once he does, because it's not a matter of if he breaks it; it's a matter of when, whether that be this season or the start of next season. He's going to break it no matter what. That record will be his. If we ask Sebastian Gonzalez, are you looking forward to breaking the record? I'm pretty sure he's going to say, I don't look at individual awards. I look at for the team. That's just the kind of guy he is. But I feel like I feel like deep down, he needs to. He wants that record of being the club's goal scorer, and not just because he could brag about it or anything like that, just because it shows that how much he enjoys being part of this club, how much he feels the club, how much he loves playing for his club. To go out there, score as many goals as you can, help your team win, and eventually if you play for your team, you're gonna get the individual awards you deserve as well. So credit again to Sebastian Gonzalez for just continuing scoring for this team and continuing putting the Rowdies on top, remaining in first place, remaining definitely on this winning streak. But after that goal, James, I think you and I both noticed that the tide started to shift a little bit. We've seen Charleston once again having more of the ball, having more of the possession. Nothing too dangerous really, maybe a couple of shots here and there. But to me, it looked like the Rowdies, they were look comfortable defending, but those 2 quick fire goals showed me that if you poke the bear, at least once, the bear is gonna come and scream at you and might even attack you. And that's exactly what the Rowdies did. You score that goal in your home stadium and you're making so much noise. Okay, that's fine. Well, you just woke us up. Now we're gonna score 2 quick fire goals on you. That's exactly what they did. But after that, they did look comfortable defending, clearing out any potential danger that was thrown at them. The defense, as you said when you were discussing the lineups, that back 3, that holy trinity, they're just amazing. They clear out everything. They're always on the same page, and nothing looked threatening to them for the remainder of the game, if you ask me.
Yeah, I think that that's about right. They did have their fair share of the play, and they could have possibly gone on to put the Rowdies under more pressure. I think that unfortunately for Charleston, but obviously very fortunately for us, it's just the case that they didn't really have the pieces to put that together, and it certainly wasn't the case on this past Saturday night. I think that the Rowdies had the better of the attacking play overall. There was, another possible penalty that you noted in our notes for this show, and okay, like I guess the referee is making some weird decisions here, but the Rowdies were already up 2-1, so fair enough. But yeah, it was definitely the case that everything was comfortable enough for the Rowdies throughout the rest of the game, and especially through the second half.
Definitely, yeah, I totally agree with you. And yeah, so like we said, the Rowdies did win 2-1 against Charleston Battery, which proved to be a not so easy game. But when you're this late in the season, everyone's fighting for that final playoff spot to get in the top four. No games are going to be easy at this point, especially now with many games coming up quick and fast. But before we even get
Yes.
to previews, we're going to get to questions. And the first question we have here, James, I'll ask you this question first. What does this game against Charleston Battery tells us about the Rowdies' resilience?
Well, what I think is just it's a little bit of what you just said, which was kind of you poke the bear, and then you're going to see how it goes. The Charleston Battery are not the team for us that they were last season. Those of us who were following last season will remember that Charleston was kind of a bogey team, and they threw us for many loops. Luckily, we were able to beat them in the playoffs to get into the Eastern Conference Final and win that. Now, I think that with Charleston being where they are in the group, in our division, I should say, the Atlantic Division, they are right out of a playoff spot in terms of the fourth and fifth, but the points difference between them are 46 for Charlotte and 31 for Charleston. So obviously there is a big difference there. I think it's hard to take away from any one game. How good can one team come back from going down? But this is something that we weren't seeing earlier in the season, and that was even against teams that might be farther down in the table, the teams like Charleston or Hartford or Charlotte Independence. I'm really happy that the Rowdies were able to show that yes, they can come back, and yes, they can get those chances. Now, it would have been nice to see that they got a couple more chances that were turned into goals, and I think that that's true, obviously, of every game except for maybe the 6-0. Actually, that it's also true of the 6-0 game, because everybody who saw that will remember that Sebastian Guenzati actually missed a penalty to start that game. But regardless, it is nice when you go down and you're able to come back and show that you have the capability of creating all these chances that then turn into goals. We did turn 2 in, and that won us the game. But against other teams that that 2 might not be enough. So it's a good starting point, and we're going to face better teams coming up very quickly here. And then we're going to, get into the playoffs, obviously, and that's going to be even better teams. So, yeah, I like it as a jumping off point. What did you think?
Mm. Oh, I mean, you can have said it better myself. I agree with everything you just said, and I like how you refer back to my analogy of poking the bear. But yeah, like you said, obviously we are going to play better teams, and we are going to come to a situation where you can't have no bad days, especially when it comes to the playoffs. If you have a bad day, you can have a record-breaking historical season, but once you have one bad day in the playoffs, and things aren't really going your way, then things will get ugly really, really quickly. But as we've seen in this game, things did get ugly really quickly, and the Rowdies, they overcame it. They overcame their problems really early. Not that they necessarily made mistakes on their own. It was maybe some bad officiating here and there, and we could have had more than 2 goals, obviously. But yeah, I think what this game mainly tells us is that how far the Rowdies have come. We look at this game. If we play this game back in July, and because back in July, James, you and I were having conversations for about 3 or 4 shows where the Rowdies just keep on conceding early and have no plan B or any kind of game plan to get an equalizer, or even show any threat to, or any desire to get a goal. Basically we were talking about how can the Rowdies overcome adversity early in the game, and they did not show that for almost about a whole month. And now, fast forward to now in October, or not that many games remaining in the season. This is a team where if they're down 1-0 early in the game, you're not going to write them off. Even if they're down 2-0 at halftime, you're still not going to write them off. But that's just the team they are right now. This team could hurt you as we've seen, within the matter of minutes. They could turn the tire around so quickly. So I think it shows how much of a better team the Rowdies have become. Yes, back in July they did face many injuries, and now they got their players back. So that's one key reason to why now we don't really fear the Rowdies losing if they concede early, because we know they have we know they're in the form, we know they have the talent to come back and win games, as we've seen against Charleston. So, like I said, what this really tells me is that we've come along such a far way. We're now in first place by a lot of points, where the Rowdies are just playing really, really great football right now. And to me, it just looks like whatever obstacles are thrown at the Rowdies from now into the playoffs, I think they have the ability and definitely the players to overcome them.
Yeah, I think that all of that. Is right, and I obviously hope so as well. But we're going to move into the next question now, and I will ask you this, Leo: are the Rowdies the most dangerous team in the league? Do you think?
If I'm looking at standings, I'm gonna say yes, just because we might we'll get to standings later, but Phoenix Rising are just there with us. But honestly, they're probably the only team that could really match with us in regards to points. But we've seen so far, the teams we've played throughout this winning streak, and the fact that we keep on winning. We do know that Phoenix Rising's losing streak did end, I believe, to LA Galaxy 2. May have to double check on that. But, the fact that we're still going on and other teams, hearing that, I'm watching the game on that broadcast, I forgot his name, one of the commentators. He said that no other team has put 4 games, has won 4 games in a row besides the Rowdies. I'm not sure if Phoenix Rising has done it. I wouldn't be surprised if they did, but the Tampa Rowdies are one of the very few teams that put a run of winning 4 games in a row or more, and not many sides have done that in the USL this season. So that's really impressive. So they are a dangerous team because they could beat you in so many ways. They could possess the ball and score goals like that. They could defend and hit you on the counter. We've seen in the game against Charleston how we see Leo Fernandez or Sebastian Dalgar on the right wing. He has the ball, and before we would just see Sebastian Gonzalez dos Santos coming into the box, but we seen Jan Ekra, Lewis Hilton, Leo Fernandez, Lawrence White. They were just flying into the box, providing options. This team could hurt you in so many ways. They could score. They have different ways to score on you. So, short answer, I think they are the most dangerous team in the league.
Well, I don't really have, too much to say against that. I think, obviously, you mentioned Phoenix, and everybody knows Phoenix. Fair enough. Phoenix does have some attacking power, and they made a couple signings over the course of the season as well. Those are people that we will have to deal with when the time comes. I think for our purposes and for the fans that will be tuning into this podcast, it's definitely fair to say that the Rowdies have all their pieces and probably some more tactical flexibility, you would think, with the roster that Neil Collins has built, because all of the players are available now. So I'm going to go with what you said, and I think that's perfectly reasonable to say. And that will take us into our next question here. Who in the remaining schedule has the best chance to beat us, do you think? We have, just to run it down very quickly, games coming up against Charleston again, against Pittsburgh, against the New York Red Bulls 2, against Miami FC, Loudoun United, and Las Vegas Lights. So what do you think about that list, Leo?
Obviously, I think 2 key standouts in this question will have to be Pittsburgh Riverhounds and the Miami FC. But, Pittsburgh Riverhounds, at one point, they were leading the division, and they've just been falling off, and they haven't really been in the best of form. If I'm picking out one team, I'm definitely picking the Miami FC, mainly because, one, they're an in-state rival, so you never know what you're gonna get with rivalries, because if you get a first-place team playing against a last-place team, but that last-place team is from a city or place nearby, it doesn't matter what place you're in, because both sides want bragging rights, and you get the best out of both sides in those kind of games. So I think the Miami FC probably has the best chance to beat the Rowdies and end their winning streak. But if you look at Pittsburgh Riverhounds, obviously, I'm pretty sure they'll make the playoffs, but they probably want to climb up higher in the table, so they might provide some kind of trouble. But those other teams, like I said, New York Red Bulls 2, Charleston Battery, Loudoun United, I don't think they'll make the playoffs. If anything, I think they're just playing, just to finish out the season because they have to play those games. But yeah, I would say the Miami FC is my choice.
Yeah, I can understand where you're coming from there. Miami are currently ahead of Pittsburgh in the standings, and that comes down to a tiebreaker because they are both level on 48 points, and they actually are both level on goal differential with a plus 14. But yeah, like I said, I can understand why you would say Miami because of their recent form. But I also want to mention for my answer that the game against Miami is a home game, and I think that will really play into our into the Rowdies' hands because our fans here obviously love beating in-state rivals, and especially Miami, who don't have that many fans anyway. But it'll be good that we have the atmosphere that we have at Al Lang Stadium. For the Pittsburgh game, though, we are away, and that's why I'm personally at this point more fearful for the Pittsburgh game. That is one that we will preview because of the schedule today. So you will hear more about that, listeners, and we'll get to that in due time. But quickly, we do have to go over our man of the match selections. And Leo, if you want me to go first, I will do that. If you would like to go first, you obviously can.
Go ahead, James. I'll let you go first.
All right. Well, I hate going back and forth between somebody who's scored every single week, but I think that I think that Jan Ekera is somebody that I mentioned already in this podcast, but he didn't stand out as much in the actual statistics that people can point to. And statistics don't just mean goals here; they also mean interceptions, chances created, and passes completed, all that kind of stuff. So, with all that in mind, I think that for my man of the match selection and everything that went into his game outside of the goal, and in addition to it, of course, I'm going to have to pick Lawrence Weick. He finally did get his goal, and he's been looking for that, so why not reward him anyway, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. James, I told you before we even started recording this show right now that because I have a fantasy Premier League team, and if a player has a great game, good for them. But if they're not scoring or assisting, they're not giving me points. So the fact that they have a great game or not, if they're already giving me any points, I'm not picking up my man of the match. I'm picking the person that's leading up to the goals. I mean, yeah, Lawrence White scored a goal. He did have a really great game. Not to say that he didn't have a great game, but Gonzalez also scored a goal and gave an assist to that Lawrence White goal. So I have to give it to Gonzalez, and he's our captain, so he gets bonus points just for that. And he's bound to break the all-time record, so he gets even more bonus points for that. And but yeah, I'm fine with either option. Lawrence White, as you said, had an amazing game, and I like how you always point out those statistics that not many people, including me, not many people look at during the game. Like I said, I'm just I guess the mainstream kind of guy that goes for assists and goals, but I like how you dig in and look at duels won, most passes completed, passes, how accurate those passes were. So I understand your decision, and I'm not even upset that you picked Lawrence White over Sebastian Gonzalez.
Well, there are certain times when a goal comes mostly because of the efforts of one player, and I shouldn't say that Lawrence White's goal was entirely on him, but he did really start the play that actually turned it into a chance. So I'm going to give him, he kind of assisted his own the assist that Sebastian Gonzalez gave him. So I'll give him an MLS assist bonus point for that.
I like that. Well, as long as they're both in agreement, then I guess it's okay to move on to our hot take. James, you want me to go first, or do you want to start this week's hot take?
Well, I will get through mine really quickly here because it is very easy for me to do, and I love your hot take, and I want to hear more about it. So my hot take is very simple. It is something that I have said a couple of times, and I'm just going to have to keep saying it until we get either the fan outcry for the Jamaican national team, or that they see and they actually call him up. But Jordan Scarlett absolutely deserves to play for the Jamaican national team, and I think that now is as fine a time as any to call him up and get him involved. We are the best team in this league, and they have called players up from this league before to play for their national team. I think that there are plenty of other reasons in addition to just that seemingly, he appears to be on the level side of the argument. But if you can, please check out my opinion piece on that. I will include that in the show notes, and you will find it on Twitter from my feed as well as the RBLR Sports feed. It goes over everything that I think about where Jamaica are and why they could use Jordan Scarlett and what he can contribute. So yeah, like I said, please check that out. And if you have any opinions on my opinion piece, then you can surely let me know. But that should do my quick hot take. Leo, you've got one that I really like. As I said, I want to hear more about this, and I want to see more of this personally. So why don't you get into that?
Definitely. But quickly before, check out James' opinion piece. It's really, really great. We've been talking about a few episodes ago how Jordan Scarlett does deserve to come up to international break. But yeah, good job on that, James. But my hot take of the week is that we both obviously this Thursday night is the Hispanic Heritage game for the Rowdies. And my hot take is that Rowdies need to do more for Hispanic Heritage Month. It's no surprise that there's a lack of diversity within the fans. For those of you who don't know, I'm Mexican, I'm a Latino. One of the things I noticed when I first attended Rowdies game was that there was diversity on the field, but not within the fans. When you put a stadium like Outlang in downtown St. Pete, it's no surprise that the majority of people are going to get within the stadium are going to be white, and that's just the way it is. Downtown places tend to have more white people than people of color, and that could always that could date back to the kind of BS methods, the kind of BS laws are created way before we were before I was alive. That ultimately just trickle down to now of who could live in these kind of areas and who couldn't. But basically, I think the Rowdies do more, and what I mean by that is that you're a Tampa team. Your stadium's in downtown Tampa. If you just promote stuff on your social media, and you're a team, like I said, from downtown Tampa, most of your followers are going to be from people in that local area. And if you have banners up in downtown St. Pete, guess who's going to read those signs? People in that area. Guess who are in those areas? The majority is going to be white people, not really people of color, not really Latinos, not really black people. And when I went to the last Rowdies game, I believe it was against Hartford Athletic. Honestly, me and my girlfriend went, and we're both Latinos, and we were looking around, and we didn't see that much diversity in the fans. It didn't make us feel uncomfortable or anything like that, but I feel like it's something that the Rowdies need to address. Especially for a team that I'm pretty sure the Rowdies would love to get more fans in the stadium, would love to sell out more seats. Well, how do you do this? You get out of your comfort zone and you go to places where the population is filled with Latinos or black people, because I live in this town called Waimama, and it's filled with so many Latinos, so many people of color, so many minorities, and not once did I've really seen the only professional soccer team in the Tampa Bay area come out here and reach out. Maybe once or twice, but there's like a soccer park, a really great soccer park with really, really talented young players. I used to play there myself, and now the new youth players are coming up the ranks. They're so talented. They compete, and they go to Disney and compete in the fields over there. They go to tournaments at a state and they compete, and they're really, really good. But not once have I seen the Rowdies reach out to them, whether it's trying out for the USL Academy, whether it's inviting them to games, giving them special group packages. Like, this is just one small town in the Tampa area. I'm pretty sure there's many more. You got Ruskin, you got Riverview, you got all these kind of places that are filled with people of color. And if you're gonna have a game that represents Hispanic Heritage Month, I feel like you can't really have it if there's not a large amount of diversity within the fans. Yes, you have players, you have a diverse group of players playing on the field, but those people who are supporting them are not really, representing diversity. They don't really understand what's like, to be a person of color playing soccer or being part of that atmosphere. So I just think that the Rowdies really need to do more than just posting on their social media, posting up signs and outlining, go out of your comfort zone. Like I said, I'm pretty sure you have people from Ralph's Mob or Skyway Casuals be more than willing to put up flyers or to go to communities like Waimama or Ruskin or any other communities filled with who are high in population of Latinos, to put up signs or to invite them, go to local soccer parks, definitely put up signs, whether it's even on a concession stand, and people don't show up, at least you tried to put in the effort to get people to come out more. So really, my hot take of the week is just that I believe that the Rowdies need to do more for this game this Thursday if they want more Hispanic people or Latino people to come out to their games.
Yeah, I think that you laid that out very well, and I think that not only is, everything that you just said true, but it's also true that if you look at the Rowdies roster, there are plenty of Hispanic people who could do some of that outreach alongside you or for you or with you. You go through it really quickly. Rico Rosarena is a Cuban player. He is from Cuba. He's somebody that could appeal to a number of Cuban Americans here who, I don't believe that soccer is the number one sport in Cuba, but there are plenty of people who grew up, of Cuban descent in America, and soccer is a big thing here on its own. So hopefully they grew up with some soccer. And then the fact that Rico is Cuban, they could reach out through him. There is Aaron Guillen, who is a Mexican American. He's somebody that could do some outreach through the Mexican American community. There is Leo Fernandez and Luis Fernando. Those are two Brazilian players. If there are any large Brazilian populations around the area, I know there is at least in Orlando, but I'm not sure how many would be living in this area. And then there are also Juan Tejada and Sebastian Guanzati. Juan Tejada is Panamanian, and he actually went to college around here. First, he went to the IMG Academy in Bradenton, and then he went to Eckerd College in St. Pete. So he's got those links to the local area. And Sebastian Guanzati has been living in America since he was a teenager, specifically in the New York area. These are all players that should be able to come out and talk to potential fans for the Rowdies. And I think that if the Rowdies coordinated that through them and with them a little better, we might see some better turnout. So everything that you said, I really like, and I think that they have the pieces to do it. I would just like to see it together a little better, like you said.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to add on really quick that, you talk about players like Aaron Guillen and, Juan Tejada. You mentioned Bradenton. Bradenton's also an area that I've played in, and I have family over there. But that area, there's also a very high population of Latinos too. Why don't Rowdies go out there? As long as you put the effort, that's all that matters. If people don't really show up to the games, I'm fine with that. But as long as you put in the effort and you at least tried, I'm happy that you went out to the community and tried to persuade or get people of color to come to the game, especially Latinos for this specific game, to come out and watch the Rowdies play. So, and you also got to think, not everybody has social media. You look at places where, some communities are underserved, and those communities are usually filled with people of color. So they might not have social media. Yeah, they might have a phone, but they might not really have social media or not really know how it works. So if you go out to,
they might not have social media in the right places to see the Rowdies stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. So if you go out and reach those areas, I feel like, you'll make people feel like they're welcome to watch the Rowdies play, and they'll just continue to be a fan. Or even if they don't come again, at least they got to experience that, and they could thank the club for giving them the opportunity to come watch the game.
Yeah. So a really good hot take there, and something that I agree with 100%. It's something that we have talked about with our previous episodes and some guests. So I love that you brought it up here as well. And I do hope to see it certainly over the course of this month. But that will do it for our hot takes. And right now we do need to get into the standings. I'll run through that really fast, and then I'll let you get into our preview section, Leo. So right now, the Rowdies are first in the East and first in our division with 58 points from 26 games. In our division, Miami and Pittsburgh are both behind us on 48 points. They have played 27 and 28 games respectively. They are both level on the goal differential plus 14, so it comes down to another tiebreaker that has Miami above them. And then behind that, Charlotte have 46 points from 27 games played. They round out the playoff spots within our division. In the rest of the East, you look at Louisville and Birmingham Legion. They have both qualified for the playoffs at this point. They are sitting on 52 points and 50 points respectively, each from 27 games played. And if you look out West, El Paso has 51 points, and they have done that in 25 games played. And then the other team who have qualified for the playoffs is Phoenix. Phoenix are sitting on 59 points from 27 games. So that is what we're looking at right now. We do have a game in hand on Phoenix that is going to come up this week, and that will, obviously we're going to talk about that in our preview. But the teams right now that we're looking at for the playoffs in this division are Tampa Bay, Miami, Pittsburgh, and Charlotte. So right now, those are the ones that we need to worry about, and those are the ones that we need to worry about in terms of keeping our place and winning our points so that we can have home advantage moving forward. And yeah, now let's get into our preview. And Leo, you can take it from here.
Yeah, so as James and I have alluded to throughout the whole episode, the Rowdies do play Thursday at home versus Charleston. And then on Sunday, they play away against Pittsburgh Riverhounds. But before we dive in more to these games, we do have a question here from Twitter. And as always, we encourage you listeners to, if you're on social media, definitely bring in your questions. James and I love to answer those questions, love to give our own inputs, and hopefully it's the answers you're looking for. If not, tell us it's not the answer you're looking for. But we have a question here from Lord Pete at MTLauster2222. With the huge week coming up for the Rowdies, hopes of clinching home field in the East, does Thursday feel like a trap game? We have the Hounds on Sunday on a short rest. We just played Charleston a couple of days ago. Ideally, we take 6 points, but is it realistic? Which game do you change the lineup, or do you go with what has been working? Which game is more important? So I guess the first question here, James, is ideally, do we take 6 points? Ideally, we want to take 6 points, but is it realistic? What do you think?
Well, personally, I think it's definitely realistic because of where we are and where Charleston are. And I don't just mean in the standings. I actually mean in our current forms right now. I think that Charleston are, kind of on the downward trend, and we are obviously on the upward trend. This is a home game after we just beat them away. We should absolutely get these 3 points. They're absolutely necessary for us to maintain our advantage and try and keep a home game in our future for the rest of the playoffs. I think if we're talking about trap games, what actually might be a trap game might be the one afterwards. But we will get into that as soon as we finish this question. Leo, you have to provide your answer first as to whether or not you think that this is a trap game, or as I thought, do you think that this is something that we can expect to take 6 points from?
Yeah, I agree with what you said. Ideally, obviously we want to take 6 points, but I think it is realistic because you said, you also said you think it's realistic, and mainly because we're playing really good good soccer. I just feel like we're at a point where, I don't know if it's a good or bad thing to watch a Rowdies game and automatically expect to win. I feel like it might be a good thing from the way they're playing right now. It's very enjoyable to watch. It's very enjoyable to see different ways they can score on the team, different ways they approach a game. So I think realistically, yeah, they could get 6 points. And and the question of does it feel like a trap game? I would say yes if we had injuries, but we have almost our full team back, and not many other teams in the USL can say that. We know other teams in USL that are still getting players back or are still, on limited resources in regards to how much players they can field on match day. But I feel like it's not really a trap game because we have the depth to rotate the squad. We did see Tejada come on more and get more minutes, but you have players like Dayon Harris, Jermaine Smith, Juan Tejada, like I just mentioned. Maybe the back line, that's where maybe a little bit concerned. Hopefully they don't overwork themselves. But again, that's probably why they've been approaching games more defensively. So they have, they're more in a specific area instead of moving all around the field and tiring themselves out, which I doubt they even tired themselves out. But yeah, the reason why I don't say it doesn't feel like a trap game is because how much depth we have in this squad.
I think that that's a good thing to point out as well. So yeah, that is our answer for that question from Twitter. As Leo said, please send anything you have on Twitter our way. We are happy to take any and all thoughts, concerns, questions, whatever you have. After this, though, there will be after these 2 games, I should say, there will be 4 games until the playoffs start. So this is really make or break for us where we want to finish in the league. And, if we can keep winning these points and we can stay ahead of everybody, then we can try to get our home game advantage for the playoff games that will be coming up afterwards. We can still host anyone at this point, and if we win our game in hand over Phoenix and it ultimately comes down to us playing them, I believe that would give us that home advantage there too. So those are all things that we need to keep in mind, and those are all things that will be very important to remember when these games come up. Recently, though, we will get into Charleston and then the game against Pittsburgh, which is on Sunday. We are playing Charleston this Thursday night at 8 p.m., and that is a home game. And then we are playing Pittsburgh this Sunday night, and that is an away game. So you can get tickets to the Charleston game. Please go cheer against Charleston and for the Rowdies. And if you want to fly to Pittsburgh. I think that there might be some fans doing that. I don't have any confirmation, but obviously Ralph's Mob and Skyway Casuals will have some information there. The 2 games, though, like I said, these are extremely important for us. Charleston, everybody knows we just went up against them. And then Pittsburgh, if we do want to go over their key players really quickly, we'll do that. And it's still something that we are all familiar with because we have played them so many times at this point in the season. Their central midfielder that we really need to worry about is Bernardo Forbes. And by worry about, I mean we need to put somebody on him to try and stop his influencing of the rest of the game, because he is very good at sitting in front of the back line and wheeling and dealing from there. He can spray the ball wherever he wants and put it on a platter for people to score. And one of the players who has been scoring a lot is Russell Cicerone. He was not playing as a striker last season, but this year he has been put there, and he is doing extremely well. I believe he has 14 goals. He at least has 14 goals, and if he has more, then they were just very recently, and that would be why I'm missing them. But these are 2 players that we need to keep an eye on, obviously, in addition to the rest of the players who will make up their attacking set, like Alex Dixon out on the wing and Danny Griffin in the midfield, who will, like Bernardo Forbes, try and have an impact on how they play. So those are the 2 teams that we're playing, and those are some players that we need to look out for, at least for Pittsburgh. If you would like a little bit more in-depth preview of Charleston, you can listen to last week's because it's the same group. But I think with all of that covered, we should just move into our predictions, and we have 2 to get down. So, Leo, do you want to split them up and one of us goes first for both? Or do you want to have it one of us goes first for one and one of us goes first for the second game?
Yeah, I'll go first for the Charleston game, then you could go first for the Pittsburgh game. But before we get to that, I want to ask you really quickly, James. Would you change the lineup for either game, or would you go with the same lineup that's been working? And also, which game do you think is more important between both Charleston and Pittsburgh?
So this is a further section of our Twitter question. Sorry for skipping ahead there a little bit, but
it's all good.
I would personally don't change the lineup for the first one. That would be my opinion. And then, we see how it. We see. I would like to see how it goes, and then determine if we should do any chopping and changing for the final game of this week against Pittsburgh. But personally, I would say start out the game against Charleston the same way, and then we'll go from there. I think that in terms of which game is more important, you do need to win at home, and then the usual formula that people like to follow is you try to win at home all of the games that you can. Then obviously you get as many points as you can on the road, whatever that might be. So what an ideal situation would probably look like for lots of teams is they win this home game and then they try and get a tie, if not a win away from home. And I think that would be the way that I would look at it. 3 points against Charleston is an absolute must. You cannot leave those behind. And then if we can get something off of Pittsburgh, who are still a very good team, everyone should remember, I think that that's the way to do it.
Yeah, I agree with everything said. And I think another key thing to remember is that if you put your strongest lineup against Charleston, you're finally at your home crowd. I'm pretty sure you want your fans to see, that lineup has been working, the lineup that's been giving you so many wins back to back. If you put that in front of your home crowd, you're destined to have a great game. You're destined to win against Charleston. And like I said, if you rotate against Pittsburgh, if you could get a result, meaning like a tie or possibly a win, I think it's a good week considering how much short amount of days you have to rest in between those games. But if you ask me which game is more important, I would have to agree with you, and I would say Charleston's more important because 1, you're back at home, and 2, that's a must win. If you tie, it's gonna feel like a loss. If you lose, it's definitely gonna feel like a loss.
Yeah.
But I would say Charleston because you definitely got to win that game, especially back home after being on the road a while. And you just really got to show that whatever you could do away, you could do just as good as home.
That's right. So yeah. Then we'll do our predictions now. If we're all good on our Twitter questions this time, and we didn't jump ahead.
Yeah, I believe we're all good now. We're good to go. So I'm up first for the Charleston game. It was 2-1. I'm gonna go. I don't think Charleston will score on us on our home field. I think this is a game where we get a clean sheet and edge closer to that. Trying to tie or break that record of most clean sheets in the season. So I'm going to go with a 3-0 win.
I like a 3-0 win. If I cannot say that we will beat or get close to beating that record for shutouts, then I will say a 3-1 win. 3-1 win against Charleston. And then we have our next game. And if I am doing the first prediction, away to Pittsburgh, I'm going to give that a 1-1 draw.
Damn it. I was going to pick that one. No, that's fine. I think I'm going to go for a boring kind of game. I think both teams are going to play it safe. So I'm going to go with the 0-0 draw.
Okay, a 0-0 draw. Fair enough. Well,
as long as we both agree that it's going to be a tie.
That's what I'm thinking right now, and obviously that's what you're thinking. So maybe one of us will be right on that. And that will take us into our final segment before we let everybody get out of here. The one more thing segment. Really quickly, just want to let everybody know that the USL Players Association has a deal in principle with the league for a 5-year deal for the second division men's soccer, and that would obviously be with this league. So there are new minimum compensation package requirements, new standards for contracts, new requirements for working and living conditions, as well as a new set of grievance procedures. And I'm going to put out a piece on that when we have more info, but right now it is just a deal in principle, so that is not obviously hammered out, and they haven't put out too many specific things. Finally, we do want to remind everybody to check out the shirts again. We have collaborated with Cathedral Clothing. There will be a link in the description. And again, all proceeds go to the Play for More campaign, which is being put on by Forrest Lasso, who is a hell of a guy.
Yeah, and be on the lookout for it's crazy because James just puts on so many opinion pieces, but he's only put out 2. But be on the lookout for his third one. If you haven't, make sure you check out that second one of Jordan Scar. That's a really good piece. Congrats on that again, James. But as always, thank you, listeners. Please get your t-shirts in. It's a really nice t-shirt for a really good cause. So make sure you snatch one up while you can. But as always, thank you, listeners, for your time. Thank you for listening to us, as always. And as we mentioned earlier, that Instagram and Facebook are back up and running. I don't know what happened earlier, but we are back up and running. So you can follow us at RBLR Sports on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. If you want to interact with James and I on Twitter, you could definitely interact with me. I'm on Twitter at _Leo Santos __. James, where can these people find you?
I am at RBLR James K. And you can use the hashtag AskRBLR to reach out to us as well.
Yeah, definitely. If you ask those questions, we'll definitely have them on the show. We'll obviously answer them, whether you agree with us or not. Let us know on Twitter. Let us know where you think you can get a hold of us. But as always, please, listeners, once again, our podcast is free. We do not charge or anything like that. But the best way you can support us is by liking and subscribing to our podcast. We're available on Spotify, the iHeartRadio app, Apple and Google Podcasts, YouTube, and other major podcast platforms. Basically, wherever you listen to your podcast, I'm about 99.99% sure that we are there. So without further ado, thank you again, listeners, for your time. And as always, come on, you Rowdies. Let's go, Rowdies. Let's continue this winning streak. Let's get heated up for those playoffs. Let's go, Rowdies.
I love it. I'm feeling it. Let's go, Rowdies.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.